All right. Welcome. Welcome to Cosmic Compass Conversation. Very excited to have two guests today. But before we go to the guests, we are going to pull some cards for the week. And not exactly sure why, but they speak to me. So this deck is the one that wanted to be the anchor card today, the Guardian of the Night Tarot. Okay. Let's find out. It has all of these super unusual animals. So something's up. We're already doing our magical, mystical Bali experience. It's already beginning here. And I'm going to pull one of these cards to kind of guide us in this anchoring for this week. Oh, I hear this week and beyond. Okay. Okay. So as you all know, if you worked with me, there's times when things start to flow in. So I'm hearing, yes, we want you to use these cards more. Okay, that's great. Thank you. I will do that. Well, then, who knew? This is quite okay. So just before I share the card, just a reminder that the collective read is supportive. It is supportive. So whatever you see, and remember, cards are interpreted by what you see, feel, sense, and then I might share a little bit about what the author says. But I want you to really, and this is funny because some of you were in a workshop with me this weekend. Some of you were in the workshop when we were at the summit too. So this should not be a surprise. Okay. It's the number 8. All right, let me see if I can get it to come into focus better. You really want to see that snake. I know you do. Okay. Interesting card. So the way we do cards here is what do you feel? What do you sense? What do you see? And those people that were in the workshop this weekend, we did this whole exercise around our responses to certain words and certain images. This is really interesting. So just kind of putting yourself into this card. What do you feel? What do you sense? What do you see? And, you're always welcome to drop anything in the chat if you want to. It is a fascinating card. So I think without looking it up, and normally I just put stuff in the follow-up email, but these two look like they're getting along. I mean, they don't look unhappy. They're kind of reverently gazing at each other. This little rodent doesn't look scared. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time getting the photo. The rodent doesn't look scared. The snake doesn't look threatening, right? I'm curious about, right? Strength and collaboration. Okay, Nancy don't you think Nancy gets a prize? Nancy gets an extra prize. That could be our theme today. That's excellent. So yes, I think having this card as our anchor card makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you, cards. And then I'm going to pull 3 more cards from the Light Seers Tarot. And this will give us some more energy to play with this week. Fascinating. I love this. This just makes me so happy. So good. All right. Yeah, good. All right. This one comes up a lot here, and I think it came up recently. Page of Swords. And again, I apologize for there we go. There we go. So, yeah, what do you notice? What do you feel? What do you sense? I don't really, just so you all know, I don't always give the interpretations. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how this matches what we talked about this weekend. I'm looking at some of the comments here. It's actually pretty amazing. And this is a word that I am going to actually say a word for this card myself. I'm going to go with curiosity. I'm going to go with curiosity. there's a lot here. And I think all of you can probably relate to this. And I can see the comments, and I'm like super excited about what you're seeing. So I think we're starting off really well. We're in theme, and we're going to pull 2 more cards. Oh, our favorite card. We talked about all of this weekend. This is amazing. Okay. Now, I just want you, before I show you the title of the card, just check out how beautiful this card is, right? Look at how beautiful that card is, right? I'm not showing you the title yet. Look at how beautiful. I want you to really look at how beautiful. This is the very, very best Tower card I've ever seen. Now, in the tarot, the Tower card can be misinterpreted. I wrote a whole bunch in the booklet for the workshop this weekend about this, but this idea of change, transformation, exactly. This idea, and I want you to see this. This is really literally, I wrote to her and told her this is my very favorite Tower card ever, because I want you to really think about, what do you feel in this? What's going on? What do you sense? You know, for me, this is beautiful. Just like there's so much transformation happening. So I have this ongoing relationship with the Tower card. It is glorious. I agree. I have an ongoing relationship with this, and knowing that we are here right now, especially going into next year, we are going into just a powerful new era, a totally new transformative era, which when we segue, Christine and Kathy, and we're going to talk about that because, yeah, it's a little tidbit. Okay, one more. Oh, beautiful card. I love that other people have an ongoing relationship with that card. This is a beautiful card. 2 of Cups. And again, just put yourself in the card. You don't need to know what it means to really, I mean, this is the beauty of this deck. As a beginner's deck, I really like it because honestly, the meanings you're getting from whatever is speaking to you, that's what's important. And her illustrations are beautiful. This woman is clearly, I mean, she's from some other planet sharing her gifts with us here. All right. So 2 of Cups. Again, we kind of come back also to, I mean, not to say what it means, but because I want you to have time to dive into it, but this idea of joining together and collaboration, right? It's coming back around. So that leads me to my segue. So some of you know who Kathy Price and Christine Dickson are. Some of you don't know who they are. I have had the pleasure of knowing Kathy since 2019 and Christine since, I think, earlier this year. Mm-hmm. And I have had the pleasure of hugging each of them in person recently. And when I say pleasure, I mean pleasure. Like this pleasure is pretty profound, right? And I'm just so grateful that the 2 of you have chosen to come today and talk about magic. I'm going to bring you on Spotlight. And to make this easy, okay, there you are, Kathy. To make this easy, what I would love is for each of you, if you're willing, to share a little bit about yourself that you want to share. You know, it could be anything today. It could be professional, it could be personal, but how do you want people to know you today? So who would like to start?
I've got to think on this one.
I know. Yeah. I ask those kinds of, you can think. I'll ramble for a minute if you need some thinking time. But what I will say while they're thinking about how they want to be known today is that each of these women are very powerful leaders. They have strong communities and they're bringing amazing teachings into the world. And I wanted them to be here anyway, but then they went ahead and planned this like fabulous retreat in Bali. And I figured, even though registration had technically closed, they opened it up again. So any of you that want to join in, and anyone listening, there may be a spot for you. I can't promise anything, but there may be a spot. And so bringing them on today felt like a beautiful opportunity to share more magic with each other. Okay. Now, anything you'd like to share?
Thank you for the time for my brain to catch up with that really light question that you threw out in the beginning. I think the thing that I would most want to share is that we're all part of each other's story, and we're all part of each other's journey. And in everything that I like to do is all about collaboration. And Kathy and I have both talked about this, where as much as we're so excited to bring so much to the retreat, doing the retreat is part of our journey too. We're all connected, and there's never that feeling of like being on high. I mean, I learn from every single person that I'm friends with, that I come across, that I work with. So I'm really excited about that aspect too, of meeting new people, getting to know people more, and the idea of community, because that's really important to me. And I saw that in the card with the hands holding. To me, that card was the magic that we can create from the ingredients of each other. And that's pretty much what we're looking at in this retreat.
See, what a great, your brain processes quickly. I'm very, very impressed. Thank you. And in all seriousness, I wanted to share with everyone else, this is Christine, and this is, what Christine just shared is the essence of, that's who you are. So thank you for sharing it that way. It's perfect to hear that this morning. So thank you. All right, Kathy. You're
okay. Up. Spotlight on me.
Spotlight on you. Tag, you're it.
I'm it. Thank you so much for inviting us on here. It's such a treat and a blessing to be here. And yeah, I'm very grateful. I had those couple of moments of thinking time, and I think you mentioned the word magic. And for me, we're all magical beings. We're all magnificent. Our magnificence tends to get hidden, and we don't believe it sometimes. And so I think part of what we're doing with the retreat is giving people space to realize who they really are. And I just say everybody is magnificent. Everybody is a healer. We heal ourselves. And part of what I hope will happen is when people come to the retreat, that they will have that joint energy, as Christine said, the community, the support, and just feel free and easy and able to step into themselves. Because we tend to be put in a little box by necessity sometimes. We have to do this job, or we have to be a certain role. And it's the experience, we've called it the Bali Magic and Meaning retreat, because that's what we want to help people find, the magic and the meaning in their life. Where do they want to go? What excites them? And by hopefully stepping into a totally new uncharted territory for many people, if not all of all of the people coming on the retreat, we're all in the same place. I am so excited. I have never been to Bali, and it's like, oh my God.
Yes.
A few weeks and I'm gonna be there. It's much the same for me as well. So yeah, I think that's what for me is that we are all magical and we are all magnificent.
Thank you, Kathy. All of you who know me can now understand why they're here, right? We all speak this language together. It's so wonderful. I love it. I'm so happy you're both here. So I'd like to I really have lots of questions. And so the idea is to, however you want to share about this. So Kathy, you mentioned that you're excited because you haven't been to Bali, but Christine, I know, has been to Bali. So I would love to know, why Bali? What is it about Bali? That could be a book or a movie.
Why Bali? Maybe that should have been the name of the retreat. Why Bali?
Yeah.
Why? I went to Bali. It'll be the 10-year anniversary of my trip to Bali this January, when we have booked this trip. And the significance in that for me is that when I went 10 years ago, I was probably about as far away from doing this work that I could be. I was there was all kinds of reasons why, a million reasons why I shouldn't spend the money on this trip. I lived really paycheck to paycheck at that time. I probably had debt. I remember I needed dental work done, and I was going, should I do the dental work or should I go to Bali? But my heart was like, it was like I couldn't breathe. And all I could think is nothing matters right now other than I need a reset, because I'm still in this lack situation, in this lack mentality of all or nothing, right? There's no other money coming. I'm not going to generate any more abundance in my life, right? So I have to decide now between teeth or Bali. But Bali was the doorway to more abundance. So I could have done the thing that would be the practical thing, the thing that probably anyone I asked their opinion of, looking at my finances, it would have been like, you should do these other things. But I really, really, really believe that the universe tests you to see if you're ready for your next level by not giving you evidence that anything is going to work out. And you have to invest in yourself and trust that by moving forward and taking risks. And it's that I always talk about the little voice, right? So that little voice was screaming at me at this point. I'm sure it had been whispering for a long time, but at this time it was like, you have to go. And I wanted to be immersed in a completely novel environment that was exotic to me and nothing at all like the environment that I lived in. Because I live in California. I mean, people come here to vacation. So it's not like I live in, a horrible, dark place. So I did that. I booked the trip solo by myself and I planned it. And as soon as I did it, it was like, I don't know, like I just had all of this energy and light in my life and like all these opportunities, all this stuff just started moving. But at the same time, the old life was falling apart. Falling apart. I found out that the job I worked at, had worked at for 11 years. We were all going to be laid off in January, which was when my trip was. I had another part-time job that I lost when I came back from Bali.
Right, of course.
And I ended up on unemployment when I came back from, like, it was like the universe was like, okay, we're starting anew. Like the whole thing is starting. But I never regretted going. And Bali, I have to say, I too read Eat, Pray, Love. And I too love Elizabeth Gilbert's writing about her experience there. And I wanted that for me. And so when I went, I really immersed myself. And I really, one thing I was saying to Kathy earlier, the one thing about travel that's so intoxicating is that because you're in novel environments, you're present. You're present all the time because you don't have a routine here. You don't have, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's next. You got to pay attention. And it's so you absorb everything in that way. And when I went to Bali, I did all these really cool things like the downhill eco bike tour. I met people from all over the world, from South Africa. I met people from Edinburgh, Scotland. I met people from everywhere. And because I had that joy, like it brought people to me and I to them. I started doing things and making plans with other people. But what it showed me was the world is a big, magical place. And it's so easy to get stuck in a rut and start thinking small and feeling like there's not a lot of options and there's not a lot of choices, and your brain atrophies. I mean, if you look at some of the research around dementia, one of the biggest things is that there's no novel experiences. Like people stay in the same routines, they see the same people, they see the same four walls, they do the same things, right? And it leads, so if we know that in old age that it finally shows up what it does to our brain, what is it doing it to our brain when it's not actually showing up as dementia yet? But how is everything contracting and shrinking as opposed to doing something that expands? And so from 10 years ago, I remember flying back from Bali and going, and it's such a, I mean, where we're staying in Ubud is the spiritual and artistic capital of Bali. So it's all artisans and artists and spirituality. It's like in the mountains. It's just magical. So I was still working jobs back then, but I remember thinking on the flight home, I would love to do a retreat one day. I would love to bring other people here and share what I experienced for themselves and see how, and watch how it affects them and see how it shows up in their life, because it gave me confidence. It gave me confidence when I went home to think outside the box, to start putting myself out there more. And I wish I could tell you it happened quickly, but I am a very slow learner. So that's why I like to work with people to help them do, doesn't have to take you 10 years to get this together,
Yeah.
If you have guidance, you can probably do it. I think that nothing happens overnight, but it really changed the trajectory of my life, and I wanted to share. And so I had no evidence then that this would ever happen, but it's just stayed a little seed in my brain till now.
Aww. And so here it is now, and it's coming to fruition. And Christine, thank you so much for sharing the process and the experience of Bali, as it opened you up to your next chapters. And there's been multiple chapters over the last 10 years. It's not just one big chapter, it's many things. So I'm really happy that you are here now creating something with Kathy that the seed was planted 10 years ago. And I'm a big believer in divine timing. Yes, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, 30 years, whatever, at a certain point, it's just really, really exciting that you're here now. So,
well, the time goes by.
Yeah.
There also the option of it never happening.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't, the time is going to go by one way or the other.
Yeah.
So you invest in yourself and then see what grows out of it.
Exactly. And I think, I'll switch to Kathy in a moment, but I really want to kind of deepen into this idea of, as we're moving into next year and as we're moving into this change of really the era of which we've been in for 13 years, we're about to shift into something else that will last about 20 years. So there's a big shift happening. And this idea of how we are showing up for ourselves, you know, it can be in many different ways. How are we investing in ourselves? How are we believing in ourselves? And Christine, I really appreciate, again, this idea of leaving what's comfortable or the same, maybe uncomfortable, because it is the same, right? And just taking a moment or a week or 2 or 3. How long were you there? Were you there a month?
9 days.
Only in 9
Well,
days?
Only 9 days. Well, and figure I was 7 full days because, you know,
Oh
there's a
my
day of
gosh, all
travel
that
on-
in 7 days. That's pretty impressive. Okay. So there you go, people. 7-day reset. No, but this idea of being able to shift perspective, literally shift your frequency, your state of being, your perspective. And then, Christine, it sounds like, and this is the follow-up, and then I want to go to Kathy. It sounds like you were able to take that experience and not forget it. You know how sometimes we'll go on vacation and come home and we think, did I ever go on that vacation? This wasn't a vacation so much. I mean, it was, but it was something very different. So I don't know if you can speak to this or if you want to speak to this, but how did you retain that change and bring that forward to now?
Well, I think that I had clear intention going into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this wasn't a vacation, like I'm leaving my life
Mm-hmm.
to check out and sip fruity drinks for a week and then come back to the same life.
Mm-hmm.
I had intention that I was on an adventure and I was going to absorb every message and everything. And because it was also a big investment of money and time, you know, it probably really made it last too. Whereas if it was really easy to throw down my gold card and you know, then I don't know if it would have carried the weight that it did. But because it was, and it doesn't have to be, I don't want to make it like it has to be you're half broke and, you know.
Yeah, right.
It's more like, is this outside your comfort zone?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
a lot of people, I know many people who have a lot of affluence, let's say, that they still have a lot of fear around money and a lot of fear around the energy of money. Like it's everything's trying to take it away from them instead of seeing themselves as a conduit of energy, and that money is just energy that is flowing into you. It's not meant to die in you. It's meant to now flow into wherever else it goes. And the idea is the more I'm thinking of the word, when you're congruent, the more congruent you are, and the more you become, and the more gifts that you start to develop and bring, then the flow just gets larger and larger. But you're also part of the flow for others because it's now going from you there. So it's not about not taking care of yourself financially, but a lot of people, we all grow up with this idea that money's really hard. It's this thing and everyone's trying to take it from you, and you gotta, like little squirrel with the nuts, you know, like you gotta hide it all. But I think that kind of dead energy, you never got to even enjoy the fact that you did have that, you did manifest that energy for options in your life, right?
So it sounds like, and this again, so as you brought the energy back, you allowed that flow to continue.
Yes.
So whether we're talking about energy or health or life or money or time, even
Or
like
opportunities,
all of we call them the Jupiter jovial things. This idea of being able to stay in your flow by opening to, and I think that first card actually, like opening to being curious about how this can be different, or how can I make it a little different? How can change be a good thing? This kind of does, speak to that. So Christine, as you reconnected with yourself there and then brought yourself back, it sounds like your whole life was able to shift and change in ways that you maybe had forgotten that could happen. Like possibilities opened up, opportunities opened up, and your life is obviously very different now than it was 10 years ago. So this question, again, totally optional for you to answer, and then we're going to Kathy, I promise. I promise. Do you have an intention going into this trip to Bali? And if you do, would you be willing to share it?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say that card with the girl and the book.
Yeah.
That is everything. So this is what this card means to me.
Okay.
All of the study, the workshops, the books, and everything that you're reading and everything you're doing to grow as a human is like your compass in front of you, is your wisdom that you're bringing in. The little birds are the little voice that's going, go this way, go that way, try that thing, take that class, do the thing. The light bulbs obviously are all your amazing ideas. And walking across, balancing across there, well, it's risk because you could fall. But you need to take risk to get to make all of those things up top happen, to make the ideas happen. You have to be able to take the risk. But there's such a lightness in it. And she looks like she's having a whimsical time doing
She does. She doesn't look unhappy as she's walking her little tightrope and reading her book and coming up with her ideas and listening to her little voices, little birdies.
So this is a step up. This is a step of faith, a leap of faith for me too, because while I have done retreats, I've not done an experiential retreat like this. And so I had to put it all together and, put my card down and put my time and energy into it and ask my friend, Kathy Price, if she would want to do this with me. And the thing is that I did it all also with the idea that, if I fell on my face, I would still, that's what was supposed to happen, right? Like if you look at everything but that's what was supposed to happen, because there was something in that the universe said, you need to learn this. And it would be, I'm okay with that. There's no, not that, no, let me re-say it. It's not that the old doesn't come up sometimes, late at night, you wake up in the middle of the night and like, what am I doing? It's that the intention and the way you bring yourself back is bringing yourself back into the faith and spiritual aspect of, this is a journey. This isn't about, you're only going to do things that get a positive result now for the rest of your life. You have no idea. But to grow involves walking on that balance.
On that tightrope. Yeah. So it sounds like your intention is to keep growing and to keep evolving. And I remember the very first remote retreat that I ever facilitated was probably in actually it was when I was 33. So I don't even know how many years ago that was. And it was in Hawaii. Actually, that was a long time ago. I forgot about that. That's a story for another time. But in recent years, about a decade and a half, maybe 12 years ago, 11 years ago was the next round of those retreats. And I hear you, it's like there's this movement that it's time to do this. And you're inviting people to join you in this beautiful experience of change and evolution and deepening. And it's going to go how it's going to go. And it is for each facilitator, an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Exactly. So thank you for bringing
Collaborate.
that
Yeah.
in. I appreciate
Yeah.
your vulnerability in that. All right, we are now going to move to your dear friend and my dear friend, Kathy Price, who said yes to the invitation. And so Kathy, you know, my question, what was it about Bali, or what was it about this idea that got you to say yes?
There's a bit of a story which we did put a little video up about this, because this was first mentioned a year ago, end of last year, beginning of this year. And Christine and I had met at the summit in Texas. And before that, actually, we'd both seen each other or listened to each other on the podcast. And then I can't remember who, one of us sent a message going, "Hi, I want to be your friend." And the other one went, "Oh my God, she wants to be my friend," you know. And we can't work out which way around that was, but it was the same sort of feeling between us. Anyway, we met up, and that's history now. It was like, yeah, I've known you before. And so Christine first mentioned the Bali retreat in January of this year. And I'll always remember her asking me, and she said that every emotion possible went over my face, like, oh shit, no, yeah, oh shit, oh God, what? I have no idea. And that literally was what was going through me, because immediately it was, I very rarely say no to an opportunity. So immediately it was like, yeah, and then it's like, oh shit. Because excuse the French, folks.
Oh, you can do that. You're an Aries.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, very spiritual. It was a case of that I had never held a retreat at that moment. I look back now, and the summit, the first summit, was such a catalyst for so much change and so much growing and so much stepping into things I've never experienced before. So when Christine first mentioned it, it was like, yeah, okay. And so nothing got mentioned then until June. Now, this was the real synchronicity, because we were talking regularly on Zoom and Bali never got mentioned. Anyway, June comes along, and independently, both of us were going to ask the other about Bali. And we started talking in June on this Zoom call, and it was almost like, don't mention Bali. Don't mention Bali. Don't, because we didn't want to put on the other person. But anyway, Bali did get mentioned, and it was like, I'm all in. I'm 100% in. And Christine, you know, had reached that point where she knew she had to start organizing something with or without me as such. But it was, so that was very synchronistic. And for me, having, you know, I knew nothing about Bali. I quickly learned about Bali. And there was, why would you not do it there? And so for me personally, it's an experience. I have never experienced anything like that. I've never been to any country like that. The culture, the food, the climate, everything will be new for me. And so that's my personal thing. But also it is about, you know, with the retreat and bringing people to that experience, we get so stuck in the energy we know. And, you know, it's often said that our tomorrow is our yesterday, because we just keep on the same track. We walk down the same road, we get the same cup of coffee, our routine is absolutely the same. And it can be quite fearful to step out of that known energy, because what's going to happen? What do you do? And you can take it very quietly. You know, I use the example that you could walk on the other side of the street going to work, break the pattern, and that can be a start of something. But for me, I felt this was such a beautiful, benign, kind, beautiful place to be able to take people out of their known and bring them into novelty, as we spoke, you know, a novel experience where there is so much going on there. You know, it's like you get bombarded. I believe your senses will be bombarded with all of the different smells, tastes, colors, weather, animals, everything. And for me, that's an opening out, an opportunity for people to realize they can step out of that energy, that known energy, and step into something new. And that will bring ideas, inspiration. And I often feel that when I've been on a trip, you know, people in my village are asking my husband now, is she home? because I spent so much time away this year. It's like,
Yeah.
oh dear, okay. So I've been really, really fortunate, you know, to have these experiences this year already in different places. But I always come back inspired, totally inspired. It's like all of this new information and experience opens me up to, okay, what's the next thing?
Yes.
What's the next thing? And it brings ideas forward.
Yes.
So Christine, you were saying with your journey in Bali last time, it was you had no idea. You were on the breadline and you know, you had to sort of that leap of faith. And it's all about, for me, stepping into abundance, not lack. You know, if you sit in abundance, that's what comes, like you were talking about the flow. And so for me, this trip will be an abundance of stimuli, of experience, of novelty, of friendship, of learning, of companionship, of safety. Those are the sort of things that I feel I really want to be able to bring forward and hold the space for people in that respect, so that they can safely experience new things. And then I truly believe that you'll go home and you'll go, okay, boys, bring us on. I've done that. I've got this new energy and this new information.
Kathy, so inspiration is a key motivator for you. And I think it's important to let people know that Kathy, something you said was at the beginning of the year you hadn't yet led a retreat. Is that accurate? But now,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
But now you're a veteran.
Quite a few under my belt in different countries as well.
I know. So do you want to speak to that a little bit? Just share a little.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, so the first retreat I held was on my own farm, because I've got a bungalow that I let out as a holiday let. And again, this is the inspiration. This is following the threads, following. I love the card, the tower card, you know, with the metamorphosis and the butterflies and the lightning strike and everything in there, because that's for me, my card. That's like, yeah, come on. And I get this sudden zap of energy and inspiration to say, oh, you've got a bungalow. That is a resource you can use. It's not just for letting out to holidays. Use it for your business. Use it for your learning. And so that's the first. And Jackie, I think, is on the call, and she was on my first retreat. And it was amazing. It was such a lovely time. I mean, God knows whether they enjoyed it. I did. But it was so amazing. And I knew that was a path to take, because I love the one-to-one. I love the interaction, listening to people and hearing them, you know, active listening. Go, okay, what's going on? And then trying to help if there's a problem, or expand or whatever. And then it turned, I started doing collaboration with Jane Pike and Tanya. And then I was going over to Australia, and I thought, well, what the hell? But here you go again, folks. This is another synchronicity, when your energy is following the right path. I was organising my trip to Australia, and somebody had messaged me saying, are you coming to Queensland? Now, I only had a vague idea of where everybody was in Australia. And I looked it up, and I just said, where are you? And they said, oh, near Brisbane. I thought, oh, I'll fly into Brisbane. And so I was planning flying into Brisbane. And then something, literally this happened within 12 hours. Something said to me, why am I flying into Brisbane? I don't know anyone. There's nothing there. I knew people in Sydney and Melbourne. And so I was seriously considering, oh, I'm going to leave Brisbane out. Literally the next morning, there is an email from somebody I'd worked with, Heather, who saying, oh, Kathy, hope you don't mind me asking, would you like to do a retreat with me on my place? I've got everything set up and I've got horses. And where does she live? Brisbane. So, you know, it's you put the energy out there, and you have these ideas, and for me, the universe then goes, oh, yeah, okay, here you go. So yeah, the retreats over there were amazing because of the different places I was holding it. The first one was with horses, which was just magical. And the second one was a workshop that was a steep learning curve,
Mhm.
because there were 15 people there and I was the only facilitator as such. And so, yeah, it's good lessons.
Yes,
I mean,
collaboration is key.
I know, absolutely. You know, it was lovely that a lot of the comments were, oh, we wish you could have been here for 2 or 3 days. So it was like, whew, okay, not too bad. But yeah, so, you know, it's been we're talking about magic and meaning. We're talking about new experience. This whole year has been a magical new experience for me.
Exactly.
And, you know, Bali is just the icing on the cake.
It really is. And so magic and meaning. And so I'm going to just say a couple of things. I happen to have the hard copy
She
here.
just happens
Hard
to have
copy.
it in hand.
Happen to
It's
have the
not
hard
signed.
copy. It's not, I know. I got lost in the autograph realm. There is that you can actually go to websites, and I'll make sure in the follow-up email that everybody has that information to go check it out. I've already sent out a couple of questions came in last night, so I've already sent that out a little bit, but I'll send it to everyone. Magic and meaning. And I want to segue just for a moment here to talk about, Kathy and I were having a conversation, and I was like, wow, that timing looks really interesting. And so we dove into a little bit of the astrology. And so when each of you speaks about shifting, changing, transforming, opening, doing something new, being in a new place, taking in new ideas, inspiration, all of that, and being held in that. And one thing I want to share with those of you that don't know Kathy and Christine is that you will be held in the deepest of love while you're there. Christine, her whole, well, maybe not everything, but much of what she does is focusing on the depth of play and joy and connection. And Kathy is, infectiously joyful and also focusing on the depth of healing in various ways through our energetic forms. And that is not probably your networking 20 seconds, but I want you all to know that you're very held in this space. But what we found when we looked at the astrology is that the retreat starts literally, and I mean this, like this blew my mind, at the exact moment that Pluto enters Aquarius at 0, 0, 0. In Bali, it will be on the 21st of January because it'll be the 20th here. So what does that mean? What does that mean? It means that you and those people joining you are literally from a sacred space of beauty and love and joy and depth and, spirituality, ushering in a new era onto the planet. This is a collective transit. Pluto has not moved into Aquarius in 248 years. Nobody on this planet that we know of, unless there may be a yogi in the Himalayas somewhere, has ever lived through this transit in this body. So there's a lot of other things happening in astrology next year, but this is one of the pinnacle pieces. And you are there on that day, opening up to this Aquarian energy, which Aquarian energy is really out of the box. It's exactly what Christine described, like something completely different than what I've been doing. The Aquarian energy is also very much about helping others, collaboration. How am I moving in this world with all of these other beings? And how can I bring more connection? How can I be more aware, awake? How can I come up with inspiring new ideas? How can I become more innovative? So that's the backdrop. And that's just like the tiniest of drops of the backdrop, right? And there you are, opening this retreat on this day. And that just blew my mind, because I really, I feel like everything happens as it's supposed to, like everything happens in divine timing. And I know it's kind of a lot to spring on the both of you to say, oh, hey, what do you think this means? I don't think you need to know what it means. I think it's more around the unfoldment of the magic, and to stay in, like you were saying, both of you were saying in different ways, be present with what is in that moment. There's nothing better than that when you're creating a space for people to come together and individually, and we can get into some of the details if you want to, but what I'm hearing is each person has their individual journey on this retreat, and then there's some group experiences. So do you want to speak to a few of those that you'd like to highlight? Because Aquarius is very much the group, and everyone will be inspired and motivated and transforming individually. So yeah, and David's always really good about this. Radiant transformation is the Pluto and the sun conjuncting. Oh, I forgot the sun is doing it too. Oh my gosh, you too. Hello. Okay, so is there anything you'd like to highlight about experiences that might be supportive to this amazing new era that's being ushered in? Anything happening? What is this retreat like? I'm going to read to you a little bit of what you've said. There's a private pool, a lush villa. There's breakfast prepared to order.
You're going to the good highlights. You're going to the best bit. Yeah, keep reading.
I know the food. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Downhill eco bike tour, coffee plantations, rice paddies, eating breakfast overlooking a volcano, visiting a monkey forest and a temple, waterfalls, mountains, beaches, and soaking up the warmth and culture of the Balinese people. Okay, that's a long list. Anything you want to highlight from that list? Anything you're looking forward to, Kathy? Or anything you're looking forward to, Christine?
I'm looking forward to the whole thing. Just, you know, I can't put my finger on, but I do think it is this. I mean, the fact that the planets are aligning for that massive change at that moment, it's like you said, divine intervention. That Christine, you were the one who decided on that date. You know, we'd had conversation, but you were the one who actually went, oh no, we'll start now and at that time, and this is how it'll work out, not knowing any of this, of course.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, again, the universe, the energy is lining up. So the people on the course, but obviously other people around the world as well, it's making it the most positive experience it could be. And I think that if you can sit in that and know almost the universe is supporting you for coming to that, you know, coming on the retreat and being there and knowing it is right, knowing it is the right time. For me, that's what that's all about.
Oh, yeah.
Christine, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. I wanted to add that I don't want to give the impression that this is for everyone. I think who we're speaking to are the people that are leaning in, that have the voice, that have the tug, that have the pull. And there's the inner battle happening between logic and faith. Because that's the voice that I started listening to. Mel Robbins wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule. And what she talks about in it is that yourself, the self, the wisdom, the seed of all wisdom within you, right? That is always whispering to you. Go here, go there, do that. But it's a whisper. And all of the layers that we have accumulated from our environment and a lot of fear. We get a lot of fear put on us because by people who love us. Kathy and I were talking about this. The people who love us sometimes are the people that hold us back the most, not because that's their intention,
Right.
but because they're projecting their fears onto you, and they're afraid for you to take risks because all they can see is the failure possibility. And the idea that somehow you're so fragile that if you failed at something, I don't know, do you lay down and die then?
Right.
But when you actually experience failure, it can be very liberating because it's never as bad as your brain makes it.
Right. Right. Right.
So talking to those people, talking to you and saying, because the 5-second rule piece, she says, you have 5 seconds when inspiration whispers to you. And if you do not take action in some way in that 5 seconds, it's like homeostasis. Imagine homeostasis is like a running back in foot. It is running to tackle that inspiration. You have 5 seconds before it just goes and pulls it away, and you go, maybe later, or next time, or I really got to get back to work.
Yes.
And we miss out.
Yeah. That's really cool. And I'm really grateful you brought that up. It sounds like we have other people here who have had the opportunity to dive into some of that as well. So that's very exciting. And, as you move into this time, not obviously, as we were saying, not everyone's going to be going on this retreat. So this is not everyone going, but everyone who's here now and anyone who's listening later, may this be an inspiration. May this opportunity that you two are creating for yourselves and for others be an inspiration to be listening to that little voice, to be listening to what's percolating. I always use that, what's percolating in there. And over the years, one of the things I've learned is that, you talked about, the little whisper. At some point, the Tower card does come into play because there is a moment where it gets really loud.
Yes.
It gets really loud. And that, I would like to say, given my own experiences over time, that it's really uncomfortable at that point.
Yeah.
So if we can learn to listen earlier and pay attention and do the action, and trust. I think that if there was something I could say about this retreat and the timing and the where it is and all of that, it is about trust, and it's about, again, listening, deepening, because that's really what you're asking, and what's benefited you and what's benefited me over the years. There's so many reasons why we choose not to do things that are whispering over here. All of them can be valid and all of them can be true. And there's, no need to judge ourselves for opportunities that we decided to pass by. And that's fine. I think that one of the things that you're teaching and sharing here today, and also I think we'll be bringing into this next era, is how can we deepen and listen to those opportunities, and then, and this is very Aquarian, open up outside the box and figure out how, not if or when, but how that can happen in our lives, how we can take one step forward towards something that's just right here, right? It's right here. You can feel it, taste it. I have to do the raffle before we end, and we're already at the top of the hour. So I wanted to just, Kathy, is there anything else you want to share before we move into going off? We'll stop recording to do the raffle and do all of that, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to share anything else that's coming up for you.
Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you again, because it's been a joy to be here, and I love listening to your wisdom and how it relates, because that again opens my brain to even more experience and understanding and letting go. I truly believe that things happen for a reason, and so that this retreat landing exactly on that time with our no prior knowledge at all, it's, you know, divine timing. And so I'm really grateful for that, and I'm so looking forward to it. And I, you know, hope anybody who feels inspired to take that step outside the box, we're here. Any questions, we'd love to see it from you, but thank you for the opportunity to speak about it.
And actually, what we can do is, I want to make sure, if you want to each drop your email into the chat, people can contact you right away. There is a time thing going on here, because technically you extended your deadline just to be here today, which I really appreciate. So if you can both drop your emails into the chat, that would be super helpful. And Christine, any last words?
Yes. The last thing I wanted to say was, this year, I ended up saying yes to things that, you know, a lot of times I think we want it to feel right. Like we want to be totally, like it's a whole yes from our whole body.
Yeah.
And I said yes to things this year that wasn't a whole yes, because I had realized and decided that yeses always led to more.
Yeah.
And when something is a real no,
Yeah,
you don't even question it, because you
right.
know it's a no.
You know it's a no. Yeah.
But when it's kind of in this back and forth, when I went to Costa Rica on a retreat with Carrie Lake and Terry Keebler, and that I was on the fence. I was going, you know, as far in advance, I don't know what I'm going to be doing then. I don't know where I'll be, like if this will get in the way of something. And Terry said, you basically, my own words back to me. And I was like in the moment of like a duh, because she was like, well, you know, the way I see it is, if you want to do it, you say yes, and then you allow the universe to line up behind you.
Nice. Nice.
I was like, oh yeah, that was like my mantra, but clearly I forgot my own mantra.
I love that. I love that. And knowing your yes and knowing your no, you know, these are things, and I want to share too, that for me, you know, when Warwick and Robin asked me to come speak at the summit, of course I said yes, because why would I say no? But kind of along the lines of what you were saying, Christine, I was like, what the, and what you said, Kathy, what the fuck? How am I, sorry. Ooh, oh, shoot. Can I put that on YouTube? Is that going to be, oh, well. Anyway, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? But I knew and here's the thing, like for me, so everyone's different. Their radar is different, and how they calibrate and figure out how to say yes or no to opportunities. And this is the bigger theme for next year. There's a whole Jupiter-Uranus conjunction happening in April that is really going to bring a lot of different opportunities. So this idea of like, well, how do we know how to say yes and no, and what does it feel like? So when I said yes to coming to the summit, I knew it was a yes. I mean, I could feel the yes, but I had to really catch up with it. Like I think my soul said yes. But my body was like, oh, I'm scared. My mind was scared. My body was scared, but my heart and soul were a total yes. Like, of course I'll do that. What an incredible opportunity to be of service, right? What an incredible opportunity to meet people. So I feel like there's very different spiritual traditions where we have higher selves and lower selves, and there's no hierarchy that's bad or good, but it's like, there were just parts of me that needed to catch up with the yes. Because I everything in me was, I mean, Kathy knows because she talked to me a lot, was very scared about getting up on a stage and having something to say and all the things. So from my experience this year too, You know, there's times when yes is it's a yes, and you don't know why it's a yes. You just know it's a yes. And then that drops us into another theme for next year. And this is something we talked about over the weekend in the workshop, is trust, which is a whole other conversation in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, trust, what is the trust? And both of you spoke to that in different ways today, and I really appreciate that. So what I also want to say before I turn off the recording is that everything we spoke about today, everything Christine shared and Kathy shared, while it was in the context of sharing about this retreat that they're doing, it is actually very thematic. Almost everything we talked about today is what's happening next year. So once again, I want to underscore, bold, highlight that you chose a day where everything shifts. And your themes are right on for what's coming, for what we need, what we're deepening into. So we could transcribe this, and we could literally know a lot more about what these planets are offering next year, just through the words that you've chosen, by creating something that's very magical and has meaning in Bali in January. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn off the recording, and we're going to do a raffle. Thank you both for being here. And to all those that are listening later, we're sorry you can't be in the raffle, but feel free to contact Christine or Kathy with any questions about anything. I mean, you know, doesn't have to be about that.
Absolutely anything.
What the meaning of life, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm turning off the recording.